I thought we would kick the session off with the Fibonacci supports because this all kind of ties into what's happening here for the month of August. Now, when I say the month of August, I'm talking about the last few weeks. And this all started just a few days ago. But if you take a look at the SPY here, you know, you've got the bottom that I've been sharing with you for months now. And that bottom is pegged down here to around April 8th when we went below 490. All right, but the closing low is closer to 500. And so I set that as my first spot to look for Fibonacci pullbacks. You take a look at where our all-time highs were. Well, they were just late last week. All-time highs coming in somewhere in the mid 640s. And so what that does is by being able to snap a low and a high on the chart, which we've done, we're able to get these pullback buy supports, I call them, right? So, you know, people were asking, where should I buy in a pullback? Where should I buy in a pullback? Well, they're pretty massive moves, but it could happen here over the next 30 days. We could see some pullbacks that are occurring. And I'm going to show you a couple reasons why here as we go forward in our session together. So first thing is that let's take a look at Fibonacci pullbacks. These are percentage pullbacks that were created by what we like to call an old dead Italian mathematician. And what does he have to show for it? He has a statue somewhere in Italy. Typically has bird poop on it because it doesn't get cleaned that often, as I've seen it. But he is the forefather of looking at ratios. Okay, and the ratios we look at in prime numbers, in this case, the ratios that I'm concerned about looking at are a 38% counter move, a 50% counter move, and a 62% counter move. Counter move to what? Counter move to the trend we're seeing right now. So if the trend is up, I want to see if we were to pull back, where do we snap the 38% pullback? In the case of SPY, it's 588. Where's the 50% move? That means if we take the low to the high and we cut that in half, 570 is where we're seeing a 50% pullback on SPY, and 553 would be the 62%. I like pullbacks that are in between 38 and 50%. Now, if you take a look at where we are right now, that's more than a 10% move back. We would need a double-digit pullback. Well, if there's any time that a double-digit pullback is likely to happen, it typically happens, guess when? Around March and April, and again around August and September. Okay, why? I'll get to that. Hey, I'm Tom Gentile, America's pattern trader, and my money calendar patterns can deliver a year's worth of stock profits or more in just 31 days on average. But if you trade options like I do, you can target 100% or more. And when you grab this month's money calendar, you get access to my 7-part cash course designed to teach you exactly how I do it. Scan the QR code or click the link below to get started for just $9. This is our moves for SPY. Now, when you look at the bond market, we have something a little different. We have a high to low that happened this year. And we're seeing what I like to call pull-ups for TLT. A pull-up is when you take the high to the low and you snap the 38, 50, and 62% going to the upside resistance. So 38% bond area was at, or TLT was at 87.30. 50% is 88.41. 62 is 89.45. Notice we've already hit the 50% at 88.41, bounced off of it, and that was back in May. Hit it again back at the end of June. Hit it again in the early beginning of August, and we started to drop then below the 38%, moving lower. Now, we looked at TLT last week. If you remember, we were looking at that as a potential bearish opportunity in the event of a pullback. Well, it looks like it's starting to happen. We'll see if it continues, but Fibonacci is one of the things we used, as well as seasonality, to come up with not only the time frame, but the target that we're looking for, which is 84. If you remember last week, we were right below 88. And here we are now, opening up this morning in the 86s. So we're getting close to halfway to the goal line here, but we'll see. Moving on, let's take a look at oil. Oil is also a little weird right now because it does have that low to high. Low being down here 62.37 and the high being at 83.12. But notice what's happened. You've got a high here in June. You've got a lower high that happened in July. All right, the high in June caused a 50% pullback. The high here, we're already at the 50% pullback. I'm looking at 70.30. I'm looking for us to go down to that area before we run into any kind of support levels for USO. Gold. Gold's done extremely well this year, but if you take a look at the most recent move, the lows happened in April with the stock market. The highs, however, happened in June. As you know, the stock market just hit new all-time highs last week. But since then, June, we have double topped. The latest move to the upside didn't quite make it, but we haven't, and we have pulled once here to 300. 300 is the 38% retracement. I like that number because it's also a round number. You want to look at everything below that. 50% is 295, 62 is 290. Literally 5-point moves take us through the area of Fibonacci support. Finally, Bitcoin. I've got two charts I want to show you here. This is the long-term chart of Bitcoin. And when I mean long-term, I'm talking about going out to April. When you look at April, you see the $75,000 low for Bitcoin. You see the all-time high that just happened last week, and we've had a pretty sizable pullback since then. But if you're looking for the longer term from this year, because long-term in Bitcoin is in months, and short-term is in weeks, where long-term in the stock market is years and short-term can be in months. But I've got a 38% pullback at just above 105,000, got the 50% pullback just below 99,000, 98,815, and 62 is at 94,254. So still quite a bit of room to go here, which is why I pulled the short-term for Bitcoin. The short-term shows something else. End of June lows right below 100,000. All-time high last week at 123,375. Yes, we did get to 124, but that was a spike up. That wasn't a closing high. Closing high was 123,375. Since then, you take a look at here, we came up and got very close to that area back in July, and we pulled back to the 50% area. Now, from here, we actually moved up and created a higher high. So is it possible we're getting the higher low pullback in right now because we have hit the 38% retracement at 114,833? Could this be over for Bitcoin? Lots of questions, but a lot of this is tied into the rest of August, and the seasonality looks like this. It doesn't look good. The most popular stocks over the next few weeks, at least into the end of August, and I believe we're going to see this spilling into September as well, are bearish. So when you add it all up, folks, it's a mixed bag. When you look at all the top ETFs, stocks, bonds, commodities, crypto, in terms of bullish opportunities for pullbacks, we're looking at SPY, GLD, and BTC. USO and TLT are really in an inverse relationship. And the seasonals are confirming pullbacks at least for the next few weeks.